Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Britt Kanawha West Hancock Athletics Podcast. Dan Kroll here. This is episode 76. And tonight I have the 1981 Boys State Championship golf team from Britt High School on here with me. So welcome to all you guys. Thanks again for coming on. Before we get to them, we're going to recognize our sponsors. I have 17 of them for tonight. It's Nick Schmidt, Levi Don Trucking, Miller & Son Golf Cars, Jay Hiscox of State Farm Insurance, Buckets Bar and Grill in Buffalo Center, Eric Kroll of Ag Performance, Window World of Mason City, Swenson's Hardware, the Britt Car Truck Bike and Tractor Night Cruise, Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company, First State Bank, Kelly Real Estate, Triple B's Food, Sportsman's Corner in Algona, Advanced Door Systems in Forest City, McNeese Tire and Auto, and Doug and Kathy Zool. Like always, these sponsors give towards the Sanger Legacy Fund. We use the Legacy Fund to help pay for the West Hancock Hall of Fame. We give scholarships to graduating seniors. We support the athletic and activity funds at West Hancock and any other community outreach programs that have a need. If you want to learn more, go to sangerstrong.com. If you want to give, you can also give there. If you want to sponsor a podcast, let me know through Facebook Messenger is the easiest way to get a hold of me. I am going to share my screen here quick and do my plug for the book. I was just telling these guys I'm currently, or for the last 2 years, been writing a book called On West Hancock. It's the complete history in chapter book form of the Brighton West Hancock football and wrestling programs. I'm the writer and the researcher, and Diane Troutman is my editor. $25, which includes shipping. It's going to be about 550 to 600 pages, so it's going to have a lot of fun information, especially some of the older stuff. I did a pretty deep dive looking into some of the stuff from the pre-Bob Sanger era in football, especially. So if you want to get a book, please message me. $25 for about 600 pages is a pretty good deal. So way back when, 50 episodes ago, and episode 26 was the 2021 senior football players from the state championship team. I'll have that linked in my posts on the Facebook posts on my podcast page. So if you want to check out that prior episode, please do so. Thanks again to the Jay Hiscox State Farm team in Britt, Levi Don Trucking, Eric Kroll with Ag Performance, Nick Schmidt, and Sportsman's Corner in Algona as my first sponsors of the night. All right, fellas, here we go. 42 years ago, you guys won the 1981 Class 1A state championship at Iowa City at Finkbine. So before we get to some golf stuff, let's start with introductions. Again, I'm sure none of you have aged a bit, so everyone recognizes you just like yesterday, but just in case here, tell them who you are, where you're living these days, what you're doing for work, if you're still working, and family, and whatever else you want to share. So how about Jim? We start with you up in the corner here.
All right, Jim Grant. Been working for Staples for the last 23 years. Live in Naples, Florida. We can golf all year round here, so come on down. Other than that, that's what I've been doing, going on cruises. We've done 31 cruises since we lived here. So
how about we'll go around clockwise to Kelly, and then Pat will end up in the middle at the end.
Yeah, Kelly Rasmuson. I'm in Ankeny. We've been here 25 years. I work at the Federal Home Loan Bank. It's downtown Des Moines. Been there about 16, 17 years. Family keeps us busy. We have 2 daughters and 5 grandkids right now. They wear us out, but they do keep us young.
Go ahead, Drew.
Yep, Drew Townsend here. It says Julia. That is my youngest, who is about to graduate from high school here in about 3 weeks. And she is heading to Alabama. So I'm actually sporting an Alabama shirt here. I have 2 older sons, Jacob, who's at Iowa State, is a sophomore, and my eldest, Alex, and he graduated from Iowa and is in banking as I am. And then he is getting married here in July. So we have a lot going on. I've worked for Heartland Financial for just about 30 years, and I'm currently the president of Dubuque Bank and Trust.
All right, Kurt.
Curtis Holck. I live in Ankeny, Iowa. Married to a Britt High School alum, Sandra Koele. We have 2 kids. Our daughter Jessica is in Waterloo, and Cody is about 2 miles from our house here, and he's a assistant golf professional at our country club. I've delivered mail for the post office for about 27 years and looking forward and counting down the days to retirement.
How many more days is that?
Oh, it's still just under 2 years, hopefully. Yeah.
You can start counting there. I'm a teacher. We count down from about 40 days left of school every single year, so that for a long time. Coach Emmert.
Gary Emmert and we've lived in Winterset for 35 years, and I retired from teaching about 10 years ago. But I still coach basketball. I'm assistant with a varsity basketball team with a guy who played for me here at Winterset. So I'm staying with that. And Nancy and I raised our 2 kids here in Winterset. And they each have families and they each have 2 kids. So we have 4 grandkids. And I still play a little bit of golf, which I learned from these guys when I started coaching at Britt.
How about you, Pat?
Pat Wellik, after graduation, went to University of Iowa, and then on to the Ohio State University for optometry school. Came out to the Twin Cities in '89, and then I'm now owner of a 4-doctor optometric practice in Apple Valley, Minnesota. Wife is Molly. We've got 3 kids in their middle 20s, 1 daughter getting married here this fall, and 1 grandchild. So that's where we're at.
Nice. These guys were debating on the before we hit record who was 60, who's almost 60, who's the farthest from 60, and they didn't let me chime in that I'm kind of panicking that I'm a couple years away from 40. So I just wanted to add that into the equation here. So sorry about that.
Thanks for reminding us, Dan.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was -5 when you guys won your state title back in '81. How many of you 42 years ago, how many are still golfing today though? What's the golf game look like?
I'll go.
Go
Well,
ahead.
Well, we should have Kurt go because Kurt's truly the golfer of the group still. So go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. I golf as much as I can. I love tournament golf, so I play as many tournaments as I can during the summer, which with my schedule doesn't amount to a whole lot unless you ask my wife. You disagree, but I play probably 8 to 10 tournaments a summer all around the state, and I just love the competition more than I do golf, and I just can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question right off the bat for Kurt. I kind of kept track, and when the Des Moines Register actually reported sports, when it was actually sports page, I'd look in there, and you were always into like the Iowa Amateur and the Des Moines City Tournament. And did you win the Iowa Amateur over the years?
No, I did not. I think the best I did was 3rd or 4th.
Okay.
My son Cody actually tied for 2nd a few years back when he was in college.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I play as many of those as I can.
You didn't win that one, Kurt, but you've won a few others. You've had your share of wins of the big tournaments.
I've won a couple of nice ones, yes.
Yeah.
So
So I used to, yeah, I was just gonna say, I used to play some of those tournaments with Kurt, but it's been a while since I've done that. I'm probably once a week, maybe twice a week, playing right now. Probably up to about a 4 handicap, so not down to a plus like Curtis is.
I'm a 6 handicap, and I thought I was still pretty good, but I'm still like number 5 of this group, I think. So
Wait, you're a bank president. You probably play.
You're not number 5 anymore, Drew. Trust me. So too much doctor time for me. So now that my kids are out of the picture, or not out of the picture, but I don't have to spend as much time, I want to get back into it. So my game's probably dropped off considerably. So, but I mean, I'll probably get maybe once every 2 weeks, couple times a month, but I want to get back into it. So.
I was gonna say we had Kurt and Sandra to the house here. Oh, it's probably been half a dozen years ago now, on the 4th of July, and So you take Kurt out, and so my home's on the back nine of a golf course, and I've lived here 26 years, and I've played it all this time. Best round I've ever shot is 71. So Mr. America pulls over here, take him out, we play the back tees, 67 is what he does.
Jeez.
Wow.
But he's just still no fun. He's still no fun to play with.
That seems like a long,
Oh, go ahead, Pat.
Oh, I still tell people now, I mean, Kurt was such, and he still is such a good irons player. I never saw a better irons player in my whole, I don't care what level. I mean, I just remember back in Britt, those times when he'd hit those shots, you know, he'd be with them. He'd be like 3 feet away. God dang it. Geez, I just hit my foot, you know? So.
I think you guys are misremembering a little bit. I don't.
Anyone have a hole-in-one in the group?
Hey, look at
Just
that.
one.
Guys,
Nope.
So
I got
Drew,
two.
you have 2. Kelly, you said 1. Jim, 1.
I have
Gary,
three.
I see you have 3. Gary,
Yes.
none.
none, no.
Pat,
None, but actually the closest one I came on, unbelievably, is hole 2 at Britt.
oh, nice.
So playing with my dad and John Brock. So John Brock and I used to have this match. He'd always call it, it's the match of the greatest match in the civilized world. So, and hit a driver up there in the backside on the lip. So that's the closest I've ever been, is on hole 2.
Nice. I'm not part of the 81 team, but any opportunity I get to tell the story, I tell it when it's golf related. I play once, maybe twice a year. And usually one of the 2 is at Hobo Days. We have a 4-man best shot called Hobo Golf Championship. It's a drunk fest. I went 6 years where we started with an 8-some and finished with less than an 8-some. That's the type of tournament it is. 2014, my wife's pregnant with twins. We're playing Hobo Golf. We're barely keeping score at this point, just playing and having fun, having a few drinks. And on hole 5, 3 holes to go. It's a hot day. I pull out my driver because I have a terrible slice. I don't hit it very far. I know my faults. I just don't take the time to fix them. I pull out my driver and my buddies are going, "What in the world are you doing?" I'm like, I'll be fine. I aim at 6 tee box. I slice it around. It lands short of the green, hops on, rolls about 25 feet, takes some paint off the flagstick and goes right in.
Yeah,
My buddies were all, I'm with Mark Sanger, Josh Eisman, a couple of those guys, and some buddies from out of town, and we're jumping around, screaming and yelling. Coach Sanger's on 4 green with his sons and some friends, and Bob comes over on his cart and he goes, "What the hell are you guys are yelling about?" They said, "Dan Kroll just got a hole-in-one." He looks at me and goes, "Kroll, is that true?" I said, "Yep." And he goes, "Okay." And he just left. All he needed to do was get his information and leave. And yeah, we were poor and having twins on the way, and I had to buy a lot of drinks that day. So it was a good time though. And then the next year, same hole, both times playing it, I stuck it within about 2.5, 3 feet each time of going in again. So my buddies started pulling out their drivers and trying to do the same thing. So didn't put that in the note, and I'm like, I gotta tell the story. I never cannot not tell the story. So yeah, we got a lot of hole-in-ones in the group. That's pretty fun. So how about getting back to Britt before we get into the golf season? Do you guys get back to town regularly, or has it been a while? The family still in the area?
Yeah,
I don't
we-
get back to Britt very
go ahead,
often.
Kurt.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the last time. I have a brother who is in Britt still, but the only time we meet there is if they're hosting Christmas or something.
Yeah.
So I don't get back to Britt very often.
Yeah, so both my wife's also from Britt in our same class, and so we have still family there, brothers. She has brothers and sisters there. We actually did play the golf course last year. Actually, last couple of years, I've been back a few times to go back and play the course.
Yep. They've done some nice improvements to it. I mean, it was in not as great a shape, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago. And the last couple, I feel like they've done some nice things to it and just keeping it going. So, and who's your wife, Kelly? Who'd you marry?
Marge Talak.
Clock. Okay. Would that be related to like Jerry Talak? I went to school with a couple of their kids. Is that the same?
Oh, yeah.
reason?
Yeah, Jerry's brother.
Okay, yep. Deal.
I don't get back often either. We haven't had family there now for, well, 20 years, I think it's been or more. And so I think my 35th class reunion, which was 3 or 4 years ago, was the last time I was there. So we don't, and I was trying to remember the last time I might have played the golf course. And I can't remember that. So it's been a time.
I get back occasionally. My parents live in Forest City now. And then my sister Ann, my youngest sister, lives in Forest City. So we get back there once in a while. And my kids always love to go back to hobo days. You know, first it was for, you know, just the rides and the parade and all that. Now they'd like to go back to the Hobnob of the Red Rooster.
Jim, you're pretty far away. Do you have any opportunities
Well,
to get back? You're on the
Well,
cruise.
my parents live in Belmont, Iowa, so.
Okay.
That's the closest I get to Britt, if I have to go back and see them. They usually come down here for the winter, so they stay across the street. So I don't really, I think the last reunion was a 15-year reunion, so that's how long it's been since I've even seen any of these guys. So it's a long time.
Coach Emmert, have you stayed in contact with any coworkers over the years?
I see Jim Timmerman periodically, and then that's about the only coworker that I've seen lately. And we've stopped up there once or twice. I go in and see the guys at the elevator, like Mark Eisman and a few of those guys, you know, and just kind of, if we're basically coming through. My wife's from Algona, so
Okay.
once in a while we'll stop going through. But I haven't played the golf course since we left Britt. Have you guys have gone back and played some, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, several times.
Good.
And while you brought up Jim Timmerman, I'm just going to do a quick plug for the West Hancock Hall of Fame. Jim Timmerman is an inductee for the class of 2023. We do the induction ceremony out at the Britt Golf Course after the first home football game. So that'll be August 25th. Denny Brum's another one. You guys all know Mr. Brum. The 1948 Kanawha baseball team, the 1986 girls golf team that won state. Two of your sisters were on that team. Dick Gilvig, the first ever state champion in Britt history and University of Iowa national champion. Herschel Morris, he won the mile race for Kanawha back in 1931, and that's still a school record to this day. And I think Haley Newbrow, track state champion back in the mid-90s. So shameless plug there for the Hall of Fame. Make sure you get out there on August 25th if you're in the area. So real quick, going to hit some sponsors and we'll get to your 86 golf season, or 81 golf season. Sorry, I was thinking the girls there quick. Thanks to Swenson's Hardware, Buckets Bar and Grill in Buffalo Center, Triple B's Food Truck, Advanced Door Systems in Forest City, and Avalon Rose Design. All right, guys, you won state in 81. We've already established that, even though I just said 86. What were your seasons, if you're a senior, leading up to that? What kind of success did you guys have before the 81 season?
Hey,
Yeah, we
go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, we did have success. 1978, we went to state. It was also at Finkbine. And I think we got 13th place that year. And then the year before, 1980, we made it to state and got 4th that year. It was at Vinker that year. So I had good momentum.
I thought it was 3rd. Didn't we take 3rd? Or was it 4th?
I thought it was 4th. I remember.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So good momentum leading right up to 1981.
And how many of you played on the 78 team?
I did.
Just Kelly? Okay. Who would have played on that 78 team with you, if you can remember?
So I had 2 older brothers. One was a senior and one was a sophomore. They were on the team. Rod Conway was a senior and John Pritchard would have been a junior that year.
He would have been a junior.
Yep.
And what were your brothers' names again?
So Greg was the oldest. He was a senior, and Todd was the year older than me, so he'd have been a sophomore.
Okay, gotcha. Yep, I knew the Rasmuson name from doing the football record book and stuff, but I couldn't think of it at the moment. So yeah, so I was unaware of those prior years, so I'm gonna have to stick that into my database for the Hall of Fame stuff. What were you gonna say, Coach?
I was just gonna say that about Vinker. I remember the year before was 4th place at Vinker, yeah.
Yeah. And were you you were the coach that year? 81 wasn't your first year, correct?
No, I was a coach in 79 or I think 79. Kelly, you
I
might have been a sophomore that first year I came. You were a sophomore.
Yeah, Grand
And so-
Jeanette, his last year is when we went to state.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And so did Grand Jeanette do boys and girls at the time, or did he switch over to girls and someone else was? Do you know?
Good point. I don't remember girls. He was boys coach for a while up until 78.
Wasn't Bill Hudson for the girls?
Yeah, I think
Back
he
when we were
did
there?
golf for Grand Jeanette, but Grand Jeanette just, yeah, he just became full-time AD and wasn't golf coach anymore. Yeah.
Okay. And he got back into it by the time the 86 team for girls won state.
Yeah.
He was the coach of that team. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to add some stuff into my spreadsheets.
Hey, here's another thing. I can't remember, Dan, just real quick, as Kelly was saying that, how did you guys do in conference all those 4 or 5 years? Weren't we up near the top? I mean, I can't remember if we won conference or we were always at the top. It was like Garner and Britt and Forest City, right? Wasn't that?
Yeah, I remember our freshman year, Garner had a really good team. The 2 Buttonbaugh twins were very good. So I'm pretty sure they won it. We actually upset them in districts to go to state that year.
Yeah.
But I don't know the other years, Curtis, you remember?
I think, I want to say we got second my freshman year, which would have been your sophomore year. That was at Lake Mills. And then the following year we were at,
Osage.
Osage, yeah. Osage.
no, that was, that would have been the next year.
That was
I
the
think
year we
were at
won state.
Northwood,
Yeah, we won
We were-
as juniors,
Northwood.
Kelly.
and we won at Northwood. Yes.
Right.
Remember, we had a playoff with Lake Mills, and I think the guy's name was Blake Colby. Was
Yes.
a
Yep.
Dutch golfer, and he snap hooked 2 out of bounds in the first hole of the playoff.
Yep.
I remember that.
Yep. Yep.
That'll do
And
it.
then, and then the next year we got second at Osage by a shot or 2. And then Drew, you'd have to help me out on my senior year. I don't remember what place we did as a team. I did win as an individual in my senior year finally, after getting a couple seconds.
I think we were down third or fourth.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So you guys, over those years, who was our like rival? I know Garrigan, you always wanted to beat, and you always wanted to beat Forest City or Garner or Forest City, but who was the top rivals then?
I would say probably Forest City, at least during my years. It seemed like they were always pretty good, and
Yeah, definitely our senior year, Forest City. They had a lot of depth, kind of like us, a lot of depth on the team. They were kind of a thorn in our side that year, and I think prior years they were pretty good as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with the Forest City thing. And I think that's where we were decent, was all these little towns, Dan, had, maybe 1 or 2 good golfers, or we were pretty solid on our 3, 4, 5, 6 guys, These other towns just didn't have enough depth usually. And that you're true, Kelly, that Forest City was the same way. So that's what I remember too, is good battles with them, junior and senior year.
Yeah, and that hasn't changed. I'm currently 5 years into being the golf coach down here, and you have a couple good teams. We have like Van Meter and Des Moines Christian, and then you have a couple teams that have like 3, maybe 4, and then the rest might have 1 kid that's gonna, maybe be an all conference type nod, and that's just been pretty standard across the board that I've seen anyway. So, yeah. Speaking of Forest City, you guys started off the season with a loss and a tie. Lost to Forest City by 2. You guys shot a 158 to their 156, and then tied with Algona 148. Did they not do any like card backs to see who actually won the meet, like handicap hole, or like go by the 5th score or the 6th score? It was just straight up tie back then, I assume.
I'm pretty sure it was just a straight up tie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tied, just went down as a tie.
Yeah, the 148 to shoot a 148 and tie. I mean, that's a pretty good duel between a couple schools. And doing my research, I thought it was kind of interesting. A lot of nights you guys would just face off against one school and just a one-on-one duel on the course. Nowadays we do quads because of what I just said. Like I have 2 girls out this year. A school we just went against only had 2 boys the other night. So if you just had 2 schools go against each other, it's hardly worth doing it because you just never know who's going to be able to fill a lineup. So what was that like? Just one-on-one type of golf. You had your 6 versus their 6. What was that like for you guys competing?
We just beat them.
Yeah. Good.
Other than those first 2 of the year, that was a rough start. Then we got momentum and got on a roll.
That 2-stroke loss to Forest City. Can any of you recall any moments of that round where you go, yeah, if I only went to gone out of bounds on hole 6 or whatever? Any of that still come into your mind, or is that long gone at this point?
Not in that one. I have memories of others, but not that one.
Yeah.
I remember one year, Forest City meet was the first time any of us had played all year. Now, whether that was that year or not, I don't know, but it was the first time we had played all year because the courses just opened and opened our season at Forest City. But like I said, I have no idea if that's that year or not.
I think it was my freshman year, and it was the first or second match of the season. We were in Belmont, and I think it was like sleeting and freezing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hold my golf club with about 2 holes to play. My driver kept flying out of my hands, and I think I had a touch of frostbite is what we decided. It was just nuts. And I was like, why aren't we quitting? But we played right through it.
I
So
know, yeah.
Just a vicious win that day too, Drew. I remember that too. It's like, oh my God, you're trying to line up on one of those holes against the wind. It's like, this is going nowhere. You know?
nowhere. Yeah, it was nuts.
How
I
about,
remember, 35 degrees, serious wind and sleet going sideways. It's not a good golf day.
how about the time we played districts at Okoboji View? We went to
Oh.
Okoboji View. I don't know what grade, if that was 81, but you guys, we took off typical Northern Iowa, beautiful Saturday morning. Get to Okoboji, tee off is beautiful. And Jim, I think you were the last guy to tee off for our team. And I remember you coming up that 18th fairway and the front had come through. The temperature dropped to like 40, 30-mile-an-hour wind, and Jim was sprinting up the fairway hitting his shot because remember that, Jim? It was so
Oh, man. Freezing rain, man. That was cool.
rain, yeah. I'll never forget that. I
And
can't,
at that
Rugby districts, was that the year we made state or not?
No,
No.
that
It
was
wasn't
another
our
year.
senior year because sectionals and districts were at Britt our senior year.
Okay, all right.
That was my freshman year. So John Pritchard would have been a senior. And I remember that the thing I remember about that is we did tee times there, and everything is always shotgun start, but for whatever reason we did tee times, and I don't know if Jim was playing the 5, I was playing 4, because I remember coming up hole 9 and
Yeah.
John Pritchard was already done and Todd Rasmussen was on 18.
Yeah,
And that was
yeah.
about the time the wind was starting to blow, and it just, that back 9 was just horrible. But
Horrible. Oh.
yeah, I think I threw up a nice little 92 or something that day.
The only time.
I was just gonna say,
I think I wrote down Jim to be the last golfer because I knew he was our toughest guy. And if the weather,
Oh, yeah.
he could handle it.
very hardy.
And at that moment, Jim goes, I'm going to look into Florida for a possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
You know, how about Kelly? Remember that time too? I don't know if Kurt was with us on that one too. Would have been our sophomore years, and we were going over to Garner to practice when it was John Pritchard, and freezing cold to get. We're mitts on. It's about 35 degrees wind. We got in that hole that's going away from the highway, getting that par 4. And he took his gloves off and he hit a drive and he lost control of his driver and went flipping into the air and fell into the pond.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
He was
It's like,
mad.
what the hell just happened there? John Pritchard just lofted his driver out into the pond.
That was hilarious.
Nice. Yeah. So you guys rebounded from that tough start. Again, I'm the golf coach at a school that does not have a golf course. When you guys are like, "Yeah, it was a tough start to the year," I'm like, I'd take your tough start any day. But you rebounded, beat Belmont. You had a 182 to their 207. Lake Mills, you had a 159 to their 190. Tied with Garrigan at 160. The 182, that stood out to me for you guys. I mean, you're in the 140s already at one point, 150s. What happened on that 182 against Belmont that day?
That was the
That was-
sleeting storm,
Yeah,
That was
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, so
freezing sleet.
understandable.
And that course is not fun to play anyway.
No, yeah, I was gonna say, that's a tough course.
That stupid
If the
creek
weather
is right
was
where you drive it.
Yep,
That's right.
yeah, that's right.
about 7 holes. That creek is just right there.
That is right. That is right.
Got either lay up or hit over it, but nothing in between.
Yep.
And then you went to I don't know if it was at Bancroft, but Bancroft when they were still on their own, 160 to their 171. Emmetsburg 160 to 170, and then you got Forest City in another one. You beat them 144 to their 154. What was the difference in meet one and this one? You said you didn't really get on the course much before that first meet, but shooting a 144 is not too shabby.
I think that's
I
what it
think-
was, just later in the year. It probably was the first, might have been the first time we played Curtis. I think it was that year. So it just got later in the year, and I think that's when we were kind of peaking. I think that's really what the difference was.
And I think that was at home, wasn't it? That was at our course.
Probably.
Yeah,
What stands out to me as well is like it looks like there's some pretty quality golf all around the area. Again, down here, you have pretty good golf and kind of bad golf. So, we'll have a 4-team meet and it'll go 167, 172, 208, and 224. I mean, so it's like 2 teams kind of competing, 2 teams kind of competing. A lot of these meets, you guys are within 10 to a dozen shots of each other. Was it just a pretty good area for golf back then?
It was-
Garrigan always had a good team.
Yeah, the Algona teams, both the Algona teams, Algona High and, Algona was just kind of a hot spot too for just a really good group of golfers. Kind of like the Rasmuson boys, and the Winkle boys, and then a couple good families that were just sensational golf.
The Hamilton guy.
Yeah.
Tim Hamilton,
Yep.
And
And then Bancroft did kind of turn into, I guess, a little bit of a rival kind of too when it came down to, I guess our junior and senior year too. They had kind of that squad that was there together quite a while, a couple of years in a row.
Yeah,
Chuck
they were very good.
Bernhard, was that
Yep.
Yeah.
Bernhard's and Cody's.
Chuck? Or Chuck Carpenter, was it?
No, well,
The Bernhards
Bernhard
and,
family. There
Yeah.
was Bill Bernhard.
Hmm.
I don't remember Chuck Carpenter, but yeah, I mean, the name sounds familiar, but I can't picture him.
tall, lanky guy, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
was Spring Valley around back then? Nice course like it is now, or was it kind of a developing area? I know
that's
they,
where we played the Algona tournament there.
Yeah,
Is
that's-
there like 4th or 5th? I think that was the place.
okay.
I believe so.
Did you guys? I didn't see it in here this year, but did you ever play at the barn, Groose in Buffalo Center? They didn't host it.
I got to meet there.
Okay, my parents managed that course, or not the course, but the clubhouse for about a dozen years, and it's always one of the nicer small courses in the area up there. And I didn't see that you guys played Buffalo Center, so I didn't know if they hosted any meets back then. So, all right, so let's keep moving on here in your season. Lake Mills, you guys scored a 146 to their 179. You got another 144 against Belmont, the same scores against Forest City to their 165, and then another 144 against Garner to their 179. Your scores kept getting and staying low and kind of had a little more margin in between yours and your opponents. 5th at the Algona tournament. Do you remember the tournament? Who were the 4 teams that would have been better than you guys that day?
I think that was the Spring Valley. If I recall, we were the smallest school there. All the other schools were Algona or bigger schools.
Fort Dodge was there, Algona,
Fort
Fort Dodge, and Garrigan was there, of course, and
I believe Clear Lake was there too, and I think they had a really good team at that time.
Very good team.
I remember playing with John DeVault that year.
John DeVault and
Yeah.
Greg Martin, and yeah, they were very good.
And let's talk about your lineup here before we get to conference. Who would have been your sixth guy? I'm assuming back then you played six in regular season meets, or was it play five?
Yeah, so it was these heavyweights, and then, you talk about the competition, and Pat was alluding to it before, so then it was myself, Joe Pritchard, Phil Wellik, and John Grandjeanette were the four that were usually playing for the last two spots.
Okay.
And so
how'd you guys do that? Did you have to go play a full 9 at practice? Best score made it in? Was it straight up?
Coach Emmert.
There was several playoffs. I mean, our JV was really good that year too, if you guys remember. And yeah, we just have playoffs, and whoever won the playoff moved on. Yeah. But it was,
I didn't play
good. Joe was good. Andrew was good. Grandjeanette, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Our JV was pretty good, yeah.
Was there ever a time between Jim, Kelly, Pat, and Curtis where you did stay on the varsity, or was there a point, Coach, where once you were on in that top 3 or 4, were you kind of on, or did you have to score in the top 4 every time?
But those 4 guys, I'm pretty much sure they've been playing for a couple of years. I'm pretty sure they were always on there, right, guys? I mean, I can't think of one. Even when Jim, and I can't remember you guys exactly. I know Kelly was, and John, when I started, Kelly and John Pritchard and Todd Kelly, I'm sorry, Todd and John Pritchard. Then was there any older guys besides those guys? It was pretty much those guys and then you guys, wasn't it? You were seniors and juniors when you guys were freshmen and sophomores?
Mike Hiscock's also a year older than us. He was on the team.
Yep.
And Dave was the other. Dave Hiscox was part
Yeah,
of
forgot about Dave.
that I had to compete with.
Yeah.
And so I didn't play in the conference meet, Dan. I wasn't, because conference, I think, was just 5.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we had a playoff before the sectionals, districts, and state went. And I won that. And then Joe Pritchard hasn't ever spoken to me since.
Joe.
What grade was Joe? Was he a junior then or senior? Was he your guys' class?
He was a junior.
Joe was in my class.
He was in
Yeah.
your class. Okay.
Yep. So the freshmen beat the 3 juniors or whatever it was, and the way it went.
Yeah.
That's what I love about coaching golf. A lot of other sports, parents will get upset about, my kid's better than this kid. I'm like, on the golf course, whoever scores best score.
Yeah.
Low score
Easy.
goes. So speaking
like
of conference, fastest guy, you're the guy for him. Yep. So let's go to the conference meet here. You guys got second place in this 1981 season. Forest City got you by a stroke for the team title, 160 to 161. I see Kelly kind of shaking his head up there. It was an 06.
Yeah, when you said earlier, do you remember certain shots? Yep, that's one I do. I remember finishing bogey on that one. In that last green, it's a slope that it goes almost straight down. And I remember 3-putting that thing, knowing we're just right on the bubble, and then we lose by 1. So that one stung.
Wasn't there Joe Pritchard was down to him, the last guy or something? He was like, there was a lot of pressure on him that day. I remember that. So
yeah. Well, what I found in my research here, Kurt, so it was just 9 holes. Was there a weather issue or something that day, or was it always just 9 holes?
No, that's all we played was 9 holes.
Okay, so Kurt, you tied for the title with a 38 with Dave Ewell of Northwood and Mitch Wilson of Forest City. Did you guys, I can't remember if this was what you're talking about earlier, did you play off for that? That's the guy who shanked it?
Yeah. Yep. And I think Dave Ewell won, and I believe I got second.
Okay. So you tied for the championship, but got the second place medal, essentially, is what how they did that.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Joe Pritchard, like you said, he got a 42. And then Kelly with a 39, Jim with a 42, Pat with a 48 on that day. No. What else do you remember about that conference meet? It's kind of funny to me in a way that you win the state title, but don't even win your own conference title. You see that a lot in sports where sometimes in the regular season, you're not, don't get whatever accolade, but then you end up winning the whole thing. So what do you remember about conference at Osage besides maybe that shot here and there, or even including that?
Well, I remember it ticking us off. And I think that probably gave us motivation for the tournaments after that, because we went in there expecting to win. That was pretty disappointing, but I think it did motivate us for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I would say, Dan, these guys were really self-motivated. When it came to golf, it wasn't like, hey, you guys got to go out and play more. I mean, they just played all the time, and they liked the game. So it really, like I said, they were self-motivated, whatever it went into. And of course, it ended up paying off really good.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Coach. I played a ton of golf with these guys growing up, and again, everybody enjoyed it. I mean, that was the cool thing. And so it kind of fed off of itself, and there was the motivation to try to beat all these guys that are right in your backyard and who you play with a lot. And so I think that made a big difference. And again, there was about 3 or 4 more that played a lot too. So it did make the difference.
Yeah, we talked before we went on about how, we just started as little kids, and that's where we spent a lot of our summer times was, oh my God, Phil and I would be out there just till you couldn't see anymore. And all you guys too, So there's just group of kids literally strap your clubs onto your bike and ride out to the golf course and just be out, just make sure you didn't get into Carl Frick's way and and spend the whole day out there, but it was, I don't know what we did. We enjoyed it. And you could always find, okay, hey, Hudson's over there. Let's go play with Mark for a little bit. Hey, here comes Kelly. Let's go play 9 holes. Let's go jump in the pool, then go out, play another 9 holes. So it was just the way we spent our summers. And then doing those other just local tournaments, Dan, that's, I think, helped us so much in the off season. We would all get together and drive 2 or 3 foursomes to these local tournaments all over. And that's how we got better, I think.
Yeah.
All of that, I want to know about this Carl Frick guy. What was up with him?
Well, let me tell you about Carl.
Yeah.
Carl had 7 holes in one.
Jeez.
Carl was a peer of my stepdad, Buck, and they were in the same golf group. And so they played, their group played every Thursday afternoon and every Saturday afternoon forever. And I don't know if I even know to this day what Carl did for a living before, because when I got into the world of Carl, he was already retired, and he just literally was out at the golf course either hitting golf balls or playing golf. But a great, great fellow, and honestly gave me some swing lessons. I mean, had a pure swing and could still shoot in the 30s at like age 75. I mean, he was just steady as she went. So those are my memories of Carl, and you guys may have some too.
He would sit there and hit golf balls over by hole 5. There's no driving range, obviously, but over on the it'd be on the north side of hole 5, there were those little trees. He'd hit them out across 5 into that area between 6, 9, and 5. But that sucker he'd have this 5-iron that he could hit 136.5 yards exactly every time straight. And you couldn't beat him because he'd never hit a misplaced shot, right, Drew? I mean, every shot was straight, but he must have hit a gazillion balls. But you know what? And we joke about him and stuff. We hated to run into him because he'd chew us out for doing stuff. But the guy taught us etiquette. I worked at the golf course a couple summers with Ron Lichtai from Wesley, and did greenskeeper work for 2 summers. And Carl knew everything about taking care of the greens, when to top dress, when to fertilize, what to do with Poana, So, and he, Drew, to your point too, he had worked for Iowa Electric Light and Power before he did that. And then he just kind of, I don't know how he turned into the guy that just did everything at the golf course, but he was that guy. And he would just be out there. I don't think he took any salary for doing it, but he'd kind of direct the groundskeepers, me and Ron, what to do. So great guy now, you know.
I'm assuming he's passed because you said he was retired back then. Do you know when he passed away? And I don't remember.
Long
I,
time.
I don't know. I'm sure, you know, Jim got in trouble with him a few times more than I did, probably.
Yep.
Let me get to a few sponsors here and then we'll get to sectionals, districts, and state here. I messed up on my notes. I think when I copy and pasted from a prior episode, I didn't change my sponsors out. So I'm just going to make sure I hit them all here real quick so they get the bang for their buck. Thanks again to First State Bank, McNeese Tire and Auto, the Britt Card Truck Bike and Tractor Night Cruise, Doug and Kathy Zool, Advanced Door Systems in Forest City. Speaking of golf, Miller and Sons Golf Cars, Sportsman's Corner in Algona, Kelly Real Estate, Jay Hiscox of State Farm Insurance, Nick Schmidt, Eric Kroll of Ag Performance, Levi Dawn Trucking, Swenson's Do It Best Hardware. I think I got all the others in the prior little break there. So sorry about that. All right, let's go to sectionals. You guys hosted it at Britt and won it with a 303. That was an 18-hole tournament, unlike conference. Second place behind you guys was Bancroft St. John's with a 320. So that's a 17-stroke win. Goldfield, I didn't put the third place team. Maybe I meant to put third and wrote fourth, but Goldfield is right after that in the team standings. Jim won the sectional title with the 73. Curtis tied with Doug Ducey of St. John's for second with the 74. Won a, looks like a sudden death playoff hole for the medal that day. What do you guys remember about sectionals? I'll go at once.
Sorry. Well, I was hoping Jim would chime in since he won, but I just remember, I don't remember anything specific. I just remember that it seemed like that was the time where Jim just really started to shine, because Jim was always kind of our wild card, because he could be a little wild off the tee and he might knock a couple out of bounds, but then he'd come back with, he might have 3 or 4 doubles on his scorecard, but he'd have 3 birdies. But he, right about that time, he just got very consistent, and he was really the reason that we did what we did. I don't think we could have won it without him doing what he did at that time.
Thank you.
Well, it's true, Jim. I don't think anybody's going to disagree.
It is true. He got hot.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. It was a good time. My game got better, and kind of stayed better now, so I like that. I don't shank it as much as I used to. So yeah.
Coach Emmert, question for you. At this point, I mean, you're a round away from going to state. These guys have been to state before. As a coach, what do you kind of do at this time of year? Just trying to reinforce what they're already doing well? Are you going, hey, this is kind of your weakness, let's tweak that for the next round? Or are you just trying to let them stay in the groove and do their thing?
Stay in the groove is the main thing. I would, all the guys testify this, I would never say this is your weakness, this is what you got to work on. I mean, they just had a kind of sense of confidence, and I know once in a while they might struggle on something. But the main thing was to just organize when we have practice, be together for practice. But like I said, they did a whole lot on their own. And then just kind of be prepared for everything that we did. And learning from the year before, I think, be alert to the weather and a few different little things like that. But, these guys knew who the players were that they were going to be facing, and we didn't scout anybody. And I don't think we ever worried about golf courses either. I think that's kind of unique. You guys never worried about, did you? The only course I ever remember that you guys talked about was Vinker as being kind of, what do I want to say, challenging, or that hole's unfair or something like that. But all the other courses, they just kind of never bothered them. They just kept playing on that. And so, yeah, I I'll tell you one quick story when you get ready for the state, getting ready for the state.
Okay. Yeah, I have this cool website that I use with my kids. It kind of has like a 3D interactive layout of a lot of the courses we'll go to. So I'll send that link back to my kids with the specific course so they can at least see, okay, on hole 2, I know it's a dog leg left, it's gonna be a blind tee shot, or at least gives them a little like heads up on what's coming. But yeah, back then you wouldn't obviously have that. It was more just show up and play, it sounds like. So
And
Fine.
and I think, again, going back to where we just all, we'd known each other for so long, played so many rounds together, knew each other's games good, it's like we could communicate to each other. Okay, I know when Kelly hits a 6-iron here, I'm gonna hit a 5-iron, we just kind of knew each other's games and communicated back and forth. I don't know, it just kind of all organically happened, didn't it, Coach? I mean,
Yeah. That's a good word for it. Organically happened. Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, all right, let's move on to districts. Also in Britt, do you guys, Coach, you might know this more, but was it common to be able to host 2 rounds of competition? Was there a
Well, I think the state knew who the better teams were, and they would kind of schedule things that way to a degree, so that you would have that. But I'm pretty sure we always played Saturdays because they never let us out of school, did they, guys? I mean, we never got out of school like they do now for tournaments. For duels, we never got out. I had to fight like crazy to get out of school a few minutes early so we could be at a meet early. Then Mr. Fisher, you guys remember him? He'd remind me of what I was first. Your teacher. But anyway,
Funny.
that's probably why we had him at Britt, because of a little better team, and they put him at the teams that were a little bit, they knew would have a.
yeah, so I just, oh, go
Was
ahead.
Garrigan in our class? For
I think they were 2A, we were 1A, weren't we?
And
Yeah,
Forest City was 2A too.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yep, so at your 1A district here, you guys won another team title with a 312, 12 strokes ahead of Bancroft St. John's. They had a 324. Grettinger also had a 324. All 3 of those teams made it to state because we were the hosts, and when the host school makes it, they send the 3rd team on. Pocahontas was next with a 328, Newman with a 336. Individually, Kurt was the district medalist with a 75. He went 41-34, so nice turnaround from round 1 to round 2. What was the difference between your first 9, your second 9 there, Kurt?
I really don't know, Dan. I don't.
42 years ago.
I don't.
Sure.
You don't remember that from 42 years ago? Come on.
Yeah, I'm sure I was a little. I'm sure I was a little hot after that first 9, but not that makes it any easier to play better. But no, I couldn't tell you what happened.
How about the 3-hole playoff for medalists with Mike Bortvit of Grettinger? Do you remember how that playoff went at all?
No, I don't. I didn't even recall the name Mike Bortvit until you sent out the email, and he's Grettinger, obviously. So I have a couple friends that we golf with here in Ankeny that are from Grettinger. So I asked them if they remembered that name, and they both replied almost immediately. They remembered him. He was a good golfer. Unfortunately, they said he passed away a couple of years ago, but I'm sorry that I can't even picture what he looked like. I just don't remember. It's a long time ago.
You've played enough golf. You've probably forgotten more about the game and what you've done. We always say Bob Sanger he has forgotten more about football than I'll ever know about it, type of thing, when you've been around something for as much as you have. So yeah, definitely. So Jim, you went 37-39 for a 76. Kelly went 38-41 for a 79. Pat with an even 40-40 for an 80, and Drew 41-40 for an 81.
Never counts.
Back to state.
My scores never counted.
True.
Never know.
You shoot an 81 and it doesn't even matter.
We were just incubating you. We were incubating you.
Right. Right.
You got the same medals we do, Drew.
Yeah.
And you going to state again, you already had some experience, excited, business as usual, just what was kind of your mentality going into the state meet?
I think pretty much what we expected, kind of with the mindset of, but we're not done yet. Let's get her going.
Stopped in Cedar Falls on the way down and played a practice round at Pheasant Ridge, which I haven't been to since. And now my oldest son is marrying a young lady, and her parents have a home on one of the holes of Pheasant Ridge.
Really?
So I've sat out the last year or so on their deck and looked on that golf course, but that's the only other time I've ever been there before or since. So that was pretty cool that, and I think Coach must have lined that up, that we played a tough golf course for a practice round on our way down to Iowa City and Finkbine. And that, I thought that was a good idea.
I think you guys, Ron Lichtai, you guys always remember Ron, don't you?
Yeah.
Sure.
He told me about Pheasant Ridge, and it's a little bit, got a few similarities to Finkbine. And so here's the major deal. I had to talk like heck because we had to get out of school Thursday to go play it. And then the meet was Friday, Saturday. And you guys don't know any of that, but man, that took me a ton to talk Fisher and Grand Jeanette, you know. But we did it. And I can't remember if we stayed in Cedar Falls or Iowa City, but we did stop there and play. And I think that was a pretty good round of golf for you.
I
Yeah,
have,
that was
go ahead.
that was a great move by you, Coach, to get us on there because, like you said, Kelly was the only one that had played Finkbine, had any idea what the course looked like. Obviously, it wasn't the same thing, but just to get out and play something that none of us had played, just kind of got us to know how we had to feel our way around a golf course and just make it work.
And
But I'm recalling, I recall we had a very good score there. We all
We
played
did.
extremely well, which just piqued the confidence. I
Yeah.
think that made a big difference.
I think we shot around 300 there, if I remember right, like 303 or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I shot a 72.
Then you
The
played
first
back.
9.
Right.
Yeah. I made it around. I know that.
yeah, well,
I just remember thinking going into Finkbine, it's a very long course. I was the shortest hitter of the whole group. So I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be able to have the length at Finkbine, you know, but, and I always thought that too. We come from, a course that's so short, Dan, you know, and I think we're all very good. Again, getting back to Kurt's iron play and stuff, we're all pretty solid, wedge and iron players. But I kept thinking, God, for this little course, we're going to be able to do something this long Finkbine course.
Coach, did the guys have to pay for that round at Pheasant Ridge? Did the school foot the bill for that? It sounded like a struggle.
Yeah.
How'd that work?
I think the school got the bill on that, didn't they, guys? I think they took care of us pretty good.
Yeah, I think so.
They took care of us for the room and a great van we had. You should have seen that. That van had to be one of those that went out to that trip where Chevy Chase went to California on.
It was a beaut.
Well, then
Yeah.
I remember coming home after and meeting the boys track team.
Yeah.
They had a flat tire, right?
Yeah. We had to help your
That
flat.
is right.
Remember that? Yeah.
So we were coming home from state and the boys track team was coming home from state. I think Sanger was probably there, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, Sanger was
He would have
coach.
been. So we stopped in and saw their minibus. We pull up with our minibus and talked to the track team on the way home.
Nice. Where would that have been by? Do you remember roughly, like where they broke down?
It was a blacktop road. It was probably close to Kanawha. It was a
Yeah,
blacktop.
I was thinking down by Belmont, a little south of Belmont, maybe. What wasn't Jim like late for a date or something with Kathy Prohaska? And he was all mad because he couldn't get back for a date or something.
Jim was always late for a date.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I'm pretty sure that happened. Let's get going, Emmert. Man,
Yeah.
I got to get back to this date with Kathy Prohaska.
The other thing I remember about the van ride home was playing "We Are the Champions" by Queen with multiple times. I remember that being played over and over, which was fun.
Nice.
So who had the boom box and the tape?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
For you younger people listening, a boombox is.
Yeah.
Right?
And tape, you better.
And what's a tape?
Just
That'd be
AC/DC
cassette tape.
walk all over you, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That was our theme song. Yep. Walk all over you. Good job, Jim.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to state then. Finkbine in Iowa City. Says you guys stayed at the Carousel Motor Lodge in Coralville, to answer your question there. Did they allow you to play a practice round at like at the state site at any time? Even if like regular season, you knew you're probably good enough to go to state, could you go down there at any time, or how would that work, you know?
No, you couldn't go play there. No,
No, even,
unless it was your home course.
okay.
The team had, if that was their home course, they were okay, but
Yeah, I know teams now that,
individually, a golfer could go there anytime, you know.
yeah, just not as a team, school based. Yeah, nowadays we have like Des Moines Christian, they're always a shoe-in to go to state, so they find out obviously where state is, and they have kids go play that course every weekend or every couple weekends if it's somewhat close. And yeah, I didn't know what the rules were on that. So Kelly played there as a freshman at state, like we talked about. Do you remember how you did that year individually?
I don't remember the scores. They're probably 10 shots higher per round, I would guess. But I do remember at the time, that was by far the hardest course I had ever played. You know, it's 18 holes. It's a long course. You got this island green surrounded by water. Pretty darn
13.
intimidating.
Yeah. You guys had an 8-stroke lead after day one, and then won it by 21 strokes by the end of day two. You guys had a 643. Belle Plaine was second with a 664. Manning with a 666. Trainer 671. Bancroft St. John's 672. Calamus 676. Rock Valley 676. Storm Lake St. Mary's had a 677. Grettinger a 684. Keota a 692, West Branch 697, as well as North Tama, and Wapello was in last place with a 707. Unless you looked at the notes, anyone remember who won the state championship for individual? 42 years later, you guys can't remember Kurt Mathewson of Madrid?
I did not know that until I saw your notes.
Yep, he won it with a 153. Kurt
I remember that.
sixth with a 154. So technically tied for second, but how'd that end up that you got sixth, Kurt? Do you remember how that played out?
There was 3 guys tied at 153 and 3 guys tied at 154. And by the time we were done, I was exhausted. I was excited, wanted to celebrate with my team, and I did not want to go back out on the golf course and play a 3-hole playoff. It was, if I remember right, it was quite warm that day too, and I know I wore pants, and I was just exhausted, and didn't. I shouldn't say I didn't care, but it really didn't mean anything to me after we had won, and
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wanted to go out and watch me play more golf.
Yeah.
Well,
Could you
True.
I had pants on too. I was hot, and I was like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
And Jim was ready to get home, so.
Yeah.
Jim had a date.
Yeah,
Jim had a date, and we had to be back.
But you talk about, Kelly, you were talking about 3-putting at Osage. I remember 3-putting the last hole there on day 2. It was hole 10, I believe, and I missed. I 3-putted from, it wasn't very far away, and you know, I would have felt a little different about it if I was playing for first place instead of 4th, but that's golf.
Yeah. Now, to go through your rounds here, Kurt went 78, 76 for a 154. Kelly was an 80, 79 for a 159. Jim 81, 83 for a 164. Pat 83, 83 for a 166. And Drew a 91, 84 for a 175. And again, what team wise, you guys got them by 21 strokes. Talk about afterwards? I know playoff that no one wanted to go play in or watch. What was it like as a team with your families, with the coach, when you guys knew for sure that you won it and everyone was done? What was that like?
School is out.
It was just us, wasn't it? We didn't have any family there at all, did we?
No families, right?
Oh,
No, nobody's
think-
parents or anything were there.
Yeah, my
My
brother Greg came down
Was
and
Greg
walked
there?
around with us. Yep, he was
Okay.
there.
Greg was stomping around through the trees, coming and giving us updates and stuff. I remember that.
That's right.
But my parents were there. Of course,
Were they?
they don't golf at all. They didn't know anything about golf, but they were there, just waited up by the clubhouse.
Coach, what about you? You got to say you're a state championship winning coach. What did that feel like for you?
It felt pretty good. I think all these guys, it felt pretty good. I mean, I'm sure they wanted to do it when they started the season, but to actually do it and be a state champ, and then there was the parents, then all these guys' parents got together and got a nice thing for us when we got back to Britt. Remember that? Did we go to the golf course or the school? I
Yeah.
can't remember.
School.
School.
They put together a real nice homecoming for him, and Jim still had to go to that, so his date was waiting even longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, it's a memory and you're walking off and you're the guy. So
It's fun. You had that reception, like I said, some people came for it. School was out for the summer at that point. What were your next steps? Which one of you were seniors again? Just refresh my memory. Kelly and Jim and Pat. What'd you guys do after high school? Keep golfing a little bit as well?
Yeah, I did. I played at UNI for a couple of years. Pheasant Ridge was our home course. So I did that for a couple of years. But then after that, I was probably around scratch at that time, but then that was pre-kids. Then you have kids and you don't play as much anymore.
Shocking.
I think we played probably a bunch of those little tournaments again that summer again too, I think I was working at the golf course again at Britt at that time with Wick. And then I went on to the University of Iowa and I got to play Finkbine a whole lot more. So
Take a cart though, right?
yeah, that's a
Walk
long
that.
walk and hilly. So
I just, I'm a Britt West Hancock guy, obviously. If you haven't figured that out by now, you've been in the dark. But a lot of schools are either average at everything, really good at one thing. To me, it's just neat that Britt and West Hancock, we have state titles and Kanawha as well. We have state titles in baseball, golf, track, wrestling, football, girls basketball, boys and girls track, Kanawha, Britt, West Hancock. For a small school like us to have so many state championships across the board, I think we're up to 23 state titles, team titles, just almost every sport, it seems like at this point, or close to it. What does it mean to you guys to be from Britt, and now obviously it's West Hancock that you follow or go back home to? What between your state title and where you're from, what's that mean to you guys?
I take a lot of pride in it. The cool thing, I was calling on a potential prospect about halfway between here yesterday. It was in New Hampton, really large operation. And he asked, "Are you from Dubuque originally?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm from a small town in northern Iowa." And he said, "Well, where is it?" I said, "Britt." And he's like, "Hobo days." And then he's like, I dated a girl from Britt once or something, but it's got a reputation. It's got a bit of karma to it. And then to be part of, a real tradition and a history that you're just talking about, Dan. I grew up a little guy watching the first state championship football teams, as I recall, and wrestling, we were so dominant and then, for me to get to tag along with these guys. And I did, just for the record, I did qualify individually my senior year. I was the district champion myself, and my scores actually counted. So I just wanted to get that in there.
See, we incubated you.
You
Yeah.
did. You did. And Bob Grangenet was the coach then, I think, Gary. I think he took it back over after you left. So anyway, I mean, I'm always proud to say I'm from Britt, Iowa, and it amazes me more times than not. You know, you can be quite a ways away and people have heard of it. So that'd be my thoughts.
I was just thinking too, Dan, just as you're saying this goes back to getting a kind of a hobnob story again, but you're gonna know this one, Kelly, from Beecher. So I don't know if it was last year, 2 years ago, we're sitting in there, and Doug Beach is a good friend from our class, okay? And me and Kelly were probably sitting there, I think, and we're talking to Leanne Halick, was from the state championship girls basketball team from 1980. She was in our class, but she's a junior. And couple beers in the hobnob, and she's spouting out, about stuff and saying, I think I'm the only state champion around here. and Doug Beach goes wild. He goes like, holy crap, are you kidding me? I see Kelly Rasmuson and Pat Wellik right here at this state champion golf. I turn around, there's Brett Hagen and Dwayne Hollett, state wrestling champs. There's some young guys over there, state football champs. Man, you're not even close to the only state champ in here. So yeah, what little town could say that, and Beecher, you guys can all imagine Beecher, Jesus Christ, what are you talking about?
That's good.
So I think it's fantastic. I'm the same way. I'm just super proud, I'm super proud to be with this group of guys forever, and again, the same thing. I looked up to these other guys 3, 4, 5 years ahead of us, and just, you dreamed of, I never dreamed of being a state champ, but just dreamed of being a good athlete somehow. But geez, I was never big enough for football, never good enough in baseball, but somehow this all happened. And so it's just such a great memory and to be able to reminisce like this is unbelievably great.
Yeah, well put. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of pride. We still, since we're in Ankeny, we can still follow the sports pretty closely. Like going into the Dome Sangers last year, just being part of that was that was a lot of pride with that. That was pretty powerful. So we follow it a lot still. All the sports. Girls basketball was at state a couple of years ago, so definitely follow them closely.
And if you guys use the live stream option through KIOW.
Yep.
Yeah. A couple playoff games in the recent years pushed like 8,500 people watching the live stream for a Class A. We're literally in the 8-man category right now. If we wanted to play 8-man, because we're getting that small, we're essentially the smallest 11-man team right now, and we're favored probably to win it all, if not, go to the Dome at the least. 8,000 people. Playoff game watching at home on a Friday night. It's like, it's not real common. That doesn't happen everywhere. So, yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, Dan, back to these guys for a minute. These guys, all these guys, and pretty much all the guys on the basketball team also played basketball. I was a basketball coach, and all you guys and Phil and some of those, almost all of them played basketball too, and they were on our basketball team. And I enjoyed the heck out of coaching them in golf, and I had them in basketball. And I ever tell you guys how I love coaching you guys?
Now you tell us.
Now
we know.
In basketball.
Run lines.
Well, yeah, you're right. I had to remind you a couple of days. Every once in a while, I'd say, get off the golf course and get in the gym. But anyway, they just were. And then when you're a coach, and this, Dan, or you see these 5 guys come on here, and they're all success, and they're all got their lives in the right spot, and they're all doing way good things for life, and I'm sure for their families and everything. So that's the part about coaching where you go, holy cow, yeah, that's really neat to be a part of. And guys, I just always remember these guys and doing that. So yeah, there you go, guys.
Who's the best basketball player out of this group?
Oh, you guys, up there in the corner, in that left-hand corner, he's got his head down now. Remember Jim? He had some pretty good stuff, didn't he, you guys?
Oh, yeah. That's
Oh,
neat.
Grundy drop step.
Deal.
That
Yeah,
drop
he had
step,
that
man.
drop step, and then he was always about, how tall are you? 6'2"? He was
6'3",
always battling all those big guys because we never had any size. Jim was always in there battling, but all you guys were good players, good to coach.
No, he wasn't that complimentary, Jim, when you missed that dunk in Garner that time that opened.
That's the first one he ever tried, was in the game.
First and only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going on
White
this,
man can't jump. That was what it was.
moving back to golf here real quick, since I went, who's the best basketball player? Who had the longest drive out of the 5 of you guys? Who could hit it the farthest?
That'd be Jim.
Yeah, that would be Jim also.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Drew was pretty long though. By the time he graduated,
You gotta
freshman
remember,
year, but
look at that
later on,
picture.
Drew.
I'm about 6 inches shorter than Jim in that picture. Now I'm Jim's size.
Yeah.
So,
How
but
about-
he could probably still.
81 year, yeah,
Yeah.
Jim for sure.
and then it sounds like chipping wise, that was Kurt. Would you guys agree? Yeah.
I think
Kelly
we
was
were
pretty
all
good at
very
that,
good
too.
around the
Yeah.
green.
Yeah.
And then putting, who was the best putter? Like clutch putting.
Kelly.
They were all
That's pretty
good.
dang good. Yeah, that's
They were all good. They were tough.
You know,
guys.
I think growing up at Britt, the greens were always in just phenomenal shape. Going back to Ron Lichtai in Weldo, the greens were always in phenomenal shape. So just to go out there and practice on the practice green, what a great. I mean, I think that's why we all had good short games.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Who had the worst temper on the golf course?
Jim.
Look at my hand up.
Yeah. We're getting Jim on here.
So Jim, I want you to tell the one story, Jim. Remember that one time we were playing, I can't remember who it was against. It's senior year. We got off number 7 and he was just having a crap round. We got up to number 8 and he was so mad, took a pine cone from those pine trees behind 8, teed it up on a pine cone. So who was that against, Grundy?
Yeah. I remember those days.
Teed it up on a pine cone. I think he hit it pretty good, actually. So
I think I used my putter too. So on that one.
yeah, I think you might have. You might have.
All right. Well, you guys mentioned one of my next guests. I'm going to bring up my next 5 podcasts coming up. I have the 96 Girls State Championship track team. And then another one I'm doing with Eric Koele and Vance Hagen. And then Jack Fisher, former principal, is going to do an episode with me. So make sure you tune into that one. I'll have to ask him why he was so hard on his coaches and didn't, let them go, the beats and stuff early and whatnot. I'll drill him
Just
on that a
remember
little bit.
School came first with him. School
Yeah.
first.
And then I'm doing an episode with some middle school teachers from when I was growing up. And then Jeff Kudej and his son, Brighton Kudej, who's graduating here in a few weeks. He played in 3 state championship football games in his 4-year career. So that's pretty impressive. As we wrap this up, guys, any last minute things that you wanted to throw out there we forgot, or any shout outs to anybody that might be watching this or whatever? Go. We didn't get to earlier. Good. That it all?
Dan, I think you covered it well. You hit us on
Yeah.
and everything. I guess I just like to thank you, Dan, for allowing us to relive some great memories. So thanks.
Yep, kudos.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
thank you,
appreciate
Jim.
it, Dan.
I was looking forward to this one for a long time as the golf coach, and like I said, I'm the golf coach, and you know how it goes sometimes. Golf doesn't get the publicity and the attention like football and some other sports. So I'm always looking out for us a little bit. So yeah, it was a good time. I was looking forward to it. So yeah, if you want to order an On West Hancock chapter book, please message me on Facebook to get your order in. Still have plenty of copies to sell. Other than that, check out the next podcast episodes or any of the ones from before. So with that, thank you guys. I appreciate it, and go Eagles.
Thanks.
Nice seeing you guys.